Thousands of people have been forced to find refuge on those beaches in Malakuta. What more can you tell us about that and how those people are faring?
Yeah, look, it's been a very dark day here in East Gippsland, here in Victoria.
For more on this, let's bring in freelance journalist Tyson Whelan. He joins us now from Lakes Entrance, Australia.
For more on this, let's bring in freelance journalist Tyson Whelan. He joins us now from Lake Entrance, Australia. Tyson, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
All right, so Tyson, break down, what is it like where you are right now? Because I understand that they're evacuating tourists and asking people to leave their homes.
Yeah, well, actually, in the last 2 hours, we've had to evacuate Lakes Entrance. So I'm calling you from a different place at the moment. It is quite scary what has happened in these last couple of hours. The Victorian government, along with the New South Wales government, which is, of course, the state north of us, have declared a state of disaster. And that means that the Victorian government and the authorities have new and unprecedented powers to essentially compel people to evacuate these areas. The danger over the next 48 hours is substantially worse than many thought. And certainly our family, along with many, many other families, are leaving while they can, because there is only really one major highway into this region in East Gippsland where there are still 50 fires burning at this stage. So in this last few hours, and certainly until morning, many people will be leaving and evacuating while they can.
Ravaged by drought and burnt by bushfires, Victoria's rural east has suffered yet another blow to the local economy with the COVID-19 shutdown. Local businesses are struggling to stay afloat despite government support packages. Tyson Whelan has the story.
Trees once scorched by the summer bushfires, now flourishing with colour. A landscape showing signs of life, but a community still suffering.
So losing the two biggest sort of school holiday periods, summer and Easter, is really going to hurt.
A new report by SGS Economics and Planning suggests East Gippsland's GDP has declined by 22% over the last financial year, the hardest hit region in Australia. Neil Triggs owns and operates Bull Ant Brewery in Bruthen, a town at the centre of January's devastating bushfires. He says there was a tourism influx in the region following the bushfires, but that all came to a grinding halt with the arrival of the coronavirus.
We started to see tourists from outside, and we'd had bookings for tour groups and that.
Josh Thomas from accommodation and wedding venue Rivendell, East Gippsland, is now selling sourdough bread and artisan butter from the roadside in Nicholson. He says dozens of businesses have closed following the bushfires, with many more now set to struggle through the winter months.
I think we'll be feeling it for quite a while. That, you know, this region, it's not your kind of day trippers that think I can knock off work at 5 in the afternoon and make it there by dinner time.
In a statement, East Gippsland Mayor John White said, "We have been dealt a tough hand of late. Working together, we are sowing the seeds for a return to an East Gippsland where we all love to live, work and invest." As the dense bush that the Black Summer fires burned through begins to show signs of life, local businesses in East Gippsland are cautiously optimistic about a similar regrowth of their economy.
We're resilient here in Bruthen. Local support locals. It's good.
In the meantime, the message from East Gippsland to Australians planning their next trip is simple. We are still here. You're welcome to visit anytime. Tyson Whelan, Newsline.
Harrison White reporting there. Well, it's been 3 years since Victoria's Royal Commission into Family Violence, but dozens of recommendations are yet to be implemented. As Tyson Whelan reports, domestic violence advocates say the time for change is now.
Rakaya O'Donnell would have turned 28 last month.
Rakaya was a very bright, bubbly and enthusiastic person. Sometimes people would say a bit too much.
But in 2013, her life was tragically cut short at the hands of her abusive partner, Nelson Lai.
He apparently tipped all the bullets out of the gun, closed the barrel, started waving the gun around. The gun went off. He didn't think there was any bullets in there, but there was, and the bullet went straight through her temple, apparently instantly killing her on the spot.
Rakaya's long-term abuse was one of many instances across Victoria which led to the 2015 Royal Commission into Family Violence. The Commission recommended changes to sentencing, overhauling the intervention regime and altering the court process for victims. But Victoria's Women's Legal Service, among other organisations, say that the 107 unlegislated recommendations and the current administration of services is simply not meeting the mark.
I, for one, am not satisfied that the governance and evaluation processes in relation to the implementation of the Royal Commission findings are adequate.
Jessie O'Donnell believes the government needs to completely rethink the justice system that so tragically let his sister down.
You know, when you're looking at the definition between murder and manslaughter, you have to be found guilty of the intent to kill. That is the difference. But if you're throwing at the jury that you didn't know what you were doing because you're on drugs, that throws doubt as to your intentions at the time.
Over $2 billion has been allocated by the state government since the Royal Commission, yet experts say the time has come for a long-term vision to stop family violence.
They believe that it's a done deal because they've put so much money in that the problem's just going to be sorted, and I'm afraid that's not necessarily what's going to happen unless, you know, they really keep their eyes on the ball and they really keep working together to make sure that, you know, the complexity of the issues are understood and acted on.
There's definitely a lot more that could be done, and I think at this stage it's just all words, unfortunately.
At the Supreme Court in Melbourne, Tyson Whelan, Newsline. Reporting from the ground during the Hong Kong protests, at the site of the Thailand soccer team cave rescue, and perhaps most notably in Western China's Xinjiang region, where he broadcast to the world rare images of ethnic Uyghur detention centres, a project which recently earned him and his team an Emmy nomination.
You know, in Xinjiang, we got followed like 24 hours a day for a week by a bunch of in my opinion. At the same time, it also is like, you know, I'm from New Jersey. We don't mind a little bit of confrontation where I come from.
Grassroots sports associations have begun planning for a potential return in anticipation of the National Cabinet announcements. Eltham Wildcats basketball CEO Greg Jeffers says he is hoping for a return to the court in July.
There's only so long you can bounce a ball on the spot or shoot the ball by yourself within 2 foot of the hoop. It's there is the social connection that I think a lot of people are looking for, and likewise, that's going to be our biggest danger. You know, that's the danger with us coming back too early, is that a lot of it's going to actually be parents wanting to get together and have a chat and catch up on what's been taking place.
Meanwhile, rugby league players are threatening to boycott the return of the NRL as tensions rise over an ongoing pay dispute. Tyson Whelan, City Journal News. Cheyenne is an expert on all things QAnon. In his research, he tracks the rate of engagement of this conspiracy theory on social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter. And from everything that he has seen, we should be alarmed.
The numbers of online engagements that QAnon gets are mind-boggling.
The coronavirus.
But first, here are some of today's headlines. Victorians will continue working from home until the end of June, Premier Daniel Andrews announced this morning. This comes after a further 8 new cases of COVID-19 were recorded in the state yesterday. Over 200,000 coronavirus tests have been taken since the start of the Victorian testing blitz on May 11.
A 30-year...
He's certainly looking forward to getting in touch with you. Also, too, just before we get jammed up by the end of songs and everything else, I'd like to just say thanks to Amber Tripp for a fantastic week. And it's been a really strong week. We've had conversations all around the world. And also, too, to our intern, a very promising young man called Tyson Whelan, who's joined us tonight, too. So thanks to all of you for being part of tonight's show and this week.
So what exactly are authorities telling people to do, though? Are people defying evacuation orders, or are these voluntary evacuations?
Well, there is no requirement for people to evacuate. The recommendation came out for all of East Gippsland yesterday. This is a region half the size of the country of Belgium. It's a massive area, and there's only one highway that comes into this region. If everyone did indeed leave, it would have caused mass panic regardless of what happened. There is no win in this situation, but tens of thousands of people have stayed in this region. And fortunately, firefighters, the Country Fire Authority, have done a pretty good job to maintain resources for thousands of people that have stayed. However, we are now seeing around 14 of these blazes reach the level considered an emergency warning, and that is the highest level of warning that can be received within the state of Victoria. And that means that people like myself, my family, and others around this region are being encouraged to stay indoors, be prepared to fight spot fires from embers falling from the sky with hoses and buckets of water. This is the reality now for communities in East Gippsland, and this is a reality that has been the case in places like New South Wales over recent months as well.
Right, and for Australians, you're hours away almost from ringing in the new year. There is some controversy surrounding the choice to go ahead with fireworks displays in some parts of the country. What are people saying about that?
There is some serious concern around the use of fireworks. Just looking at the reality of using fireworks during this period, firefighters are currently protecting homes in huge foresty areas. They can't be, quite frankly, they can't be in town looking after masses of people when there's fireworks going off. Fireworks can lead to fires starting. It's the reality that's happened here in Lakes Entrance in recent years. Of course, the major fireworks will be in Melbourne and Sydney, the major cities in Australia. Those fireworks are going to go ahead. In these smaller communities like Lakes Entrance, fireworks have been cancelled, which is the right decision, and many within the community think so. With those metropolitan ones, there is some concerns around the money being spent on fireworks, millions of dollars, of course. That the theory is that could be redirected towards fire resources. Unfortunately, these fireworks are organised many months in advance, but indeed some are saying rather forget about the money. We shouldn't be celebrating while there are communities in serious dire need at the moment of our love and support, and there's certainly that's a community concern within those regions that are fire affected at the moment.
Okay, freelance journalist Tyson Whelan, our thoughts are with you and everyone in Australia who is battling these fires continuously and really suffering because of it. Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries, Lois. Thank you.